Don't come to Mom's birthday party. It'll just ruin things. My dad texted and family group chat laughed. I replied, copy that. Then I quietly canceled the holiday groceries, froze the shared utilities, and flagged their credit line. At 3:19 p.m. my sister called. Did you cut us off? I just turned off my phone. But next day, I was cleaning up after breakfast when the message popped up in the family group chat. Dad, don't come to Mom's birthday party. It'll ruin everything. No hello, no explanation. Just that. A few seconds later, my sister dropped in a laughing emoji. Then another one from my brother. And then my dad again. Seriously. Just let it be. You've done enough already. I didn't respond right away. I stared at it for a full minute, feeling something in my chest go cold and hard. Then I typed, understood. I got no reaction. That was the most predictable part. I wasn't surprised. I was disappointed in myself for still expecting anything different. I closed the chat, opened my grocery app, and canceled the $368 order I had placed for their party. Shrimp, ribs, wine, sides, cake. All gone with 2 clicks. Then I logged into the shared utility account and froze the payment. Next, the emergency credit line they'd been using for months. Flagged it for review. Let the bank figure it out. At 3:19 p.m. the next day, my sister called. I let it ring. She called again. And again. Finally, she left a voicemail. Did you cut us off? I didn't answer. I didn't even listen to the rest of the message. I just turned off the phone. But the thing is, none of this started with the party. It started 3 months ago, when I left my kids, 8 and 6, at my parents' house for a weekend. I had a conference out of state, and it was supposed to be simple. I dropped them off Friday night. My dad nodded, my mom barely looked up from the TV. I didn't think anything of it. Sunday afternoon, I came back to find my kids alone. In the house. No one else there. The garage was empty. The fridge barely had anything inside. My daughter told me they had cereal and sandwiches. My son said Grandma left them a note that she'd be back Saturday morning but never came. I called my parents, furious. They told me they had errands. Then dinners. Then something about a weekend getaway they forgot to tell me about. My brother and sister backed them up. And when I pushed, they flipped it. You should have known we have our own lives, Brad. You just dumped them on us. You always think we'll drop everything for you. Kids need to grow up anyway. I didn't talk to them after that. Not for weeks. Maybe months. But I still paid their internet. Still helped with the phone bills. Still dropped off groceries when I knew they were short. Not because I forgave them, but because part of me clung to the idea that they were still my family. And now? Now I got told not to come to my own mother's birthday. They want a line drawn? Fine. I'll carve it in stone. By Sunday evening, the missed calls were stacking up. 23 in total, most from my sister, a few from my brother, and a handful from my dad. One voicemail was just static and heavy breathing, like someone had pocket dialed in the middle of a meltdown. I didn't listen to the rest. I wasn't curious. Monday morning, I got a text from Dad. Very childish. 2 words, and I could practically hear the old man's voice in my head, that tone he used when he was pretending to be above it all. That was his way of deflecting, make me the immature one, like he wasn't the one who banned his own son from his wife's birthday because the rest of them needed to feel comfortable. I didn't reply. I had already said everything I needed to with silence. That day, I moved fast. First, I logged into our old shared utility account. I'd been the one paying for it ever since my dad's business started bleeding money. He never asked directly, just started calling me with complaints about fees and overdue notices. I started covering it like a fool, telling myself it was temporary, that it was family. Now it was locked. Let them call the electric company. Next, I opened the car insurance portal. My brother's name, removed. He'd been on my policy for years because he couldn't get decent rates on his own after a DUI. He used to joke that he'd owe me one forever. I guess forever expired. Then I moved to the streaming services. Netflix, Hulu, Disney+, even my Spotify family plan. All gone. And I made sure the logouts were immediate. I knew they'd be halfway through a show when the screen went dark. Around noon, I got a new text from my sister. Are you seriously punishing us over a party? What the hell is wrong with you? There it was. The tone shift. From smug silence to full-blown confusion. They were unraveling. It wasn't about the party. It was never just about the party. It was about everything that happened before it, everything they tried to pretend didn't matter. Like the weekend 3 months ago when I left my kids with them, thinking they'd be safe with their grandparents. I still remember the feeling in my stomach when I walked in that Sunday and found the house quiet. Not peaceful quiet. Empty quiet. I called out, "Nothing." My daughter came out of the guest room holding a tablet, wearing pajamas she'd been in since Friday. My son was on the couch, chewing dry cereal straight from the box. No milk left. They thought Grandma had gone to the store. She hadn't. She left a note on the fridge that said she'd be back Saturday morning. It was still there. They'd left my kids, 8 and 6, completely alone for 2 days. No sitter. No neighbor. Just them. I still don't know exactly where they went. My mom mentioned a winery tour. My dad mumbled something about a golf trip with old coworkers. When I confronted them, they didn't deny it. They just turned it around on me. Said I shouldn't have assumed they were available all weekend. That I'd sprung it on them. As if I hadn't asked weeks in advance. My sister chimed in, saying I always expected too much. That maybe this was a good thing, that my kids had to learn independence sometime. Then the killer line. "They're fine. You're the one making this a big deal." That was the last real conversation I had with them. After that, I stopped trying. But stupidly, I kept helping. Quiet little payments. Quiet little favors. A quiet little son still playing his part, waiting for them to come around. And then came the party. Not just an exclusion. A public one. A group chat declaration that I wasn't welcome because I'd ruin everything. No one defended me. No one called me after to check in. They just dropped their laughing emojis like it was a family joke I wasn't part of anymore. So I started withdrawing quietly. Not to punish them. To end it. And it was only just beginning. Tuesday morning, around 10:30, my receptionist buzzed and said, "Brad, your brother's here. Says it's urgent." Ryan. Of course. He came in like he was walking into his own house. No knock, no greeting. Just stood there with that look he always wore when things didn't go his way. "So what, you're cutting everyone off now?" he asked. I didn't answer. He waited for a reaction, but I wasn't giving him that. He laughed, loud and fake. "You made your point. Okay? You're mad. But come on, this is over the top. You froze everything. You think that's normal?" Still nothing. Then he started listing off the casualties. Dad couldn't get gas yesterday because the joint card got declined. Mom's grocery delivery was cancelled mid-shipment. My sister couldn't book an Uber home from work. She had to walk, Brad, he said, like that was some kind of human rights violation. Then the guilt trip started. "You know Mom's been crying nonstop, right? Dad hasn't slept. This is family. We're supposed to have each other's backs." It was like a bad script. Same act, same lines. I told him calmly. "You all showed me who you are. I just finally stopped pretending not to see it." He said something under his breath about me being the problem. Called me dramatic on his way out, like he always does when I don't roll over. That night, I got one of those epic texts from my dad. Paragraphs. All about how family makes mistakes and how I should rise above, not hold grudges. It ended with, "You were always too sensitive. Maybe that's why people stopped dealing with you." That line sat with me longer than it should have. Not because I believed it now, but because I used to. I used to believe maybe I was the problem. That if I just kept quiet, if I helped more, if I bent a little further, they'd come around. I was the one who patched things up after every fight. The one who sent gifts even when I didn't get a thank you. The one who paid their bills while they talked about how I always played the victim. And then they left my kids alone. And blamed me. So no, I wasn't overreacting. I was just done. That night, I shut down the old emergency account I'd kept active for my dad. It was something I opened years ago when his business started tanking and he was too proud to admit it. He never said thank you, just treated it like his right. I transferred the entire balance to a new account and removed his access. Then I opened the phone account portal and initiated the disconnection. They'd get one last billing cycle. Enough time to realize their own lives come with their own consequences. I didn't send them a message. No dramatic post, no warning. Just quiet exits. One by one. The next morning, my daughter asked why Grandma hadn't called her back about her birthday cupcakes. I paused, then told her gently, "They're not going to be around much anymore." She blinked at me, confused. "Why?" "Because they forgot how to be kind," I said. That's when I knew. I wasn't just freezing bills or cutting off services. I wasn't teaching a lesson. I was ending something. For good. No more birthdays. No more holidays. No more visits. No more room for people who thought blood gave them a pass to be cruel. And most of all, no more letting them near my kids. By Wednesday afternoon, they'd moved from texts to appearances. My sister showed up at my house just after lunch. I saw her through the curtains, tote bag slung over her shoulder, phone in hand, pacing like she was rehearsing a speech. She rang the bell twice, knocked once, then sat on the porch like she had all the time in the world. I didn't open the door. Not because I was scared of a confrontation, but because I was done giving them stages to perform on. 10 minutes in, my phone buzzed. "Can we talk? You don't need to burn everything down over this." There it was again. Over this. Like I was flipping out because someone forgot to invite me to brunch. Not because they abandoned my kids and laughed about it. I didn't respond. I watched her eventually get up, check her phone, and walk back to her car. But before she left, she taped a note to my door. I waited until she was gone, then opened it. It was a check. $50. No message. Just her name scribbled at the bottom like that made it all square. That night, I left the family group chat. Not out of anger, just necessity. It was like closing a bank account that had been overdrawn for years. I didn't say anything. Just left. 10 minutes later, I got a message from Ryan. "Oh wow, the drama continues. Left the chat? What's next, changing your name?" Then another from my sister. "Grow up, Brad. We didn't think you'd take it this far. This is embarrassing." It wasn't just that they were defensive. It was how quickly they played the victim. They were already rewriting the story. In their version, I was unstable, bitter, sensitive. Not a father reacting to actual abandonment. Not a son who'd spent years covering for them. The next morning, I took it a step further. I removed them all from the school emergency contact list. My parents. My siblings. Anyone who could show up or be called if something happened. Replaced with 2 coworkers and my neighbor, Carla, who's watched my kids more times than my own family ever has. Then I sat down and sent one last email, to my lawyer. Nothing dramatic. Just a question I'd been holding off on for weeks. "Can I legally prohibit my parents from having contact with my kids?" The reply came faster than I expected. Short version, yes, especially if it's documented that there were incidents of neglect or if the custodial parent deems the relationship harmful. I stared at the screen for a long time. Harmful. That word stuck. Not violent. Not abusive. Just harmful. A perfect description for people who chip away at your sense of safety one denial at a time. That evening, I made dinner like normal. Chicken tenders, rice, peas. My daughter asked if Grandma was coming to her end-of-year recital next week. I told her no. "Why not?" she asked. I hesitated, then said, "Because sometimes people don't do what they're supposed to. And when that happens too many times, they lose the chance." She looked at me like she understood. Then she said, "Can Miss Carla come instead?" That hit harder than it should have. Because Carla would come. No questions, no conditions. And just when I thought the night was over, there was a knock on the door. It was Dad. He didn't look like himself. Unshaven, worn out. I opened the door halfway, didn't invite him in. He didn't even say hello. Just stood there for a second, then reached into his jacket and pulled out a photo album. Old school. Leather-bound. Our childhood. "Thought you'd want this," he said. I didn't take it. He held it out longer. "Before you do anything stupid." That's when I realized. It wasn't a peace offering. It was bait. Nostalgia dressed up as a guilt trip. A reminder of what they thought I owed them. I looked him in the eye and said, "You left my kids alone." He flinched, like he thought I'd forgotten. Or forgiven. Or moved on. Then he tried the line they always fall back on. "We didn't think it was a big deal." I didn't answer. I just shut the door. I watched from the window as he stood there for another minute, photo album in hand. Then he finally turned and walked away. I never opened that album. I left it on the porch overnight. It was gone the next morning. Maybe he came back for it. Maybe someone else took it. Either way, I didn't care. Because now I was sure. This wasn't just about cutting them off. It was about keeping my kids safe from ever thinking that what they did, what they are, is normal. By Friday morning, the silence was starting to sound like freedom. No more surprise visits. No messages. No fake apologies. I expected one last desperate attempt, a voicemail maybe, or some long-winded Facebook post about how family matters most, but nothing came. That scared me more than the noise. Because it meant they were shifting gears. At work, I got a call from a blocked number. I usually let those go to voicemail, but something told me to answer. It was a woman's voice I didn't recognize at first. "Brad? It's Janet. Mom's friend from her book club." I braced myself. "She asked me to talk to you. Said you're going through something, and maybe hearing it from someone else would help you calm down." I didn't say anything. "She just misses her grandkids. She's heartbroken, Brad. Don't you think maybe it's time to let things go?" That was their new tactic. Use someone with a soft voice and clean hands to sneak past the walls. I thanked Janet, told her politely to never call me again, and hung up. That evening, I checked the mail and found a card. No envelope, just folded construction paper with a glitter pen message from my sister's youngest daughter, my niece. Inside was a drawing of our family from years ago. Back when everyone was still pretending. It was sweet, innocent. But it had my sister's handwriting on the back. Kids shouldn't be caught in the middle. Just think about it. And that's when I realized how far they were willing to go. They were using their kids now. Trying to press the one button they still thought might work, guilt. But they forgot one thing. I was thinking about the kids. Mine. Saturday morning, I took my kids out for breakfast. Just us. We went to a place we hadn't been to since before the fallout. The one near the lake with the old jukebox. My daughter got blueberry pancakes, my son got extra bacon, and we just talked. Nothing heavy. Cartoons, summer break, the dog they want. And then, out of nowhere, my son said, "If they come back, can we say no?" That stopped me cold. I asked him what he meant. "If they want to come visit or hug us or say sorry, can we say no?" I told him, "You never have to say yes to people who hurt you." He nodded. Didn't say anything else. Later that night, I found a message had been slipped under my door. Not mailed. Delivered by hand. One page, handwritten, from my mother. It started with, "I don't know what happened to you." Then moved on to, "You were such a good son before you had kids. Ever since then, it's like you're trying to prove something." She said they didn't leave my kids alone. That they had a neighbor. Check in. She wrote that I was rewriting history, making things dramatic. That I was poisoning the next generation with resentment. The final line read, "You think you're protecting your kids, but you're just making them weak." I stared at that line for a long time. Then I folded the letter, walked outside, and burned it on the grill. I watched it curl and vanish into smoke. No big moment. Just a quiet end to a long pattern of rewriting reality. That night, I finally slept. No replaying conversations. No wondering if I overreacted. And when I woke up the next morning, I knew exactly what I was going to do next. It was time to make it legal. Monday morning, I called my lawyer. I'd never actually said the words out loud before, but this time I didn't hesitate. I told her I wanted a formal letter drafted, one that would go to each of them, my parents, my brother, my sister, stating that they were no longer to contact me, my children, or show up at any property connected to us. She asked if I wanted to pursue a restraining order. I said not yet. But I wanted everything documented. Every message. Every voicemail. Every attempt. In case they escalated. She didn't seem surprised. "This happens more than you think," she said. I told her it's not about being afraid. It's about protecting what's left of my family. The real one. That afternoon, I picked the kids up early from school. No reason, just wanted to have a few extra hours with them. We went for ice cream, sat on the curb outside the shop, and talked about summer plans. My son wants to build a treehouse. My daughter wants a telescope. Simple things. Clean things. Nothing like the mess I came from. When we got home, there was a box waiting on the porch. No label. No address. Inside was a collection of old toys, ones that used to be at my parents' house. A doll, a wooden truck, a few books. A folded note on top, in my father's handwriting. They used to love these. Maybe they'll remember who we are. That was the last straw. They weren't done trying. Not because they wanted reconciliation, but because they couldn't accept not being in control. It had always been that way. Nothing was ever just mine. Not my childhood. Not my victories. Not even my grief. I called my lawyer again. Told her I wanted the letter sent immediately. Certified mail. Copies for me. And yes, I wanted the paperwork drawn up to block all legal visitation requests. Permanently. I told her something else, too. Something I hadn't said until then. I don't want my kids growing up thinking that kind of love is normal. She understood. That night I sat my kids down. I explained in simple words that some people don't know how to love without hurting. And when people show you that enough times, it's okay to stop giving them chances. My daughter asked if Grandma was gone forever. I said yes. And she didn't cry. No one did. Instead, she got up, grabbed a crayon, and crossed out my parents' names on the family drawing taped to the fridge. Then she added 2 new stick figures, her teacher and Miss Carla. They're nicer, she said. It was brutal. Honest. Final. Just like it needed to be. A week later, the letters were confirmed delivered. I got no response. No calls. No visits. For once, the silence felt like a door slamming shut. And I let it stay closed. It had been a few weeks since I sent the cease and desist letters to my family. The silence that followed was both a relief and a confirmation that I had made the right decision. I was finally able to focus on my children and our lives without the constant interference and manipulation. Then, one afternoon, I received an email from an unfamiliar address. The subject line read, "An invitation." Curious, I opened it. It was from a local community center, inviting me and my children to a family reconciliation workshop. The email explained that the workshop was designed to help families heal and rebuild relationships. I was puzzled. I hadn't signed up for any such workshop, and I was certain my children hadn't either. I called the community center to inquire about the invitation. "Yes, Mr. Brad," the receptionist said. "Your sister registered you and your children for the workshop. She mentioned that it would be a surprise and hoped it would be a step towards mending your family ties." I was taken aback. After everything that had happened, after all the boundaries I had set, my sister still believed that a workshop could fix the years of neglect and betrayal. I politely declined the invitation and asked the community center to remove us from their list. That evening, I sat down with my children and explained what had happened. They listened quietly, and then my daughter said, "Dad, we don't need a workshop to know who loves us and who doesn't." Her words reaffirmed my decision. We had created a new family dynamic, one built on trust, respect, and love. We didn't need to revisit the past or reopen old wounds. A few days later, I received another email, this time from my brother. It was a long message filled with apologies, justifications, and a plea to meet and talk things over. He mentioned that our parents missed their grandchildren and wanted to see them. I didn't respond. Instead, I focused on the present. I enrolled my children in new activities, planned a summer vacation, and continued to build a life free from the toxicity that had once overshadowed us. The past would always be a part of our story, but it no longer defined us. We had chosen a different path, one of peace, healing, and unconditional love. And for the first time in a long while, I felt free.